Manoel de Oliveira passed away in 2014 at the age of 106, and he still holds the record as being the oldest still active filmmaker in history on the day he died. And that's not even his most notable accomplishment. Oliveira directed 31 feature films and an almost equal number of short movies and documentaries, and nearly all of them were made after the man turned 67 years old, in case you thought it was ever too late to start. Now, Manuel Candido Pinto de Oliveira, his full Catholic name, his circumstances were a bit unusual. Being Portuguese in the 1930s, there was precious little cinematic infrastructure in his home country at the time, and to make matters worse, the authoritarian regime of a different Oliveira, Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, began in 1932 and continued unabated until 1974, when it was finally toppled by a military coup and then followed by the Carnation Revolution, a civil revolt where hardly a single shot was fired, but instead civilians put carnation flowers in the rifles of military personnel. I am not making this up. Manuel's ability to make movies had been almost completely curbed during the Salazar regime, and Oliveira was known to be a critic of the government. He was able to make precisely 3 feature films before the revolution in 1974, and one of them was after Salazar had already had a stroke in 1968, and the regime was already beginning to attempt reforms in 1972. And then, starting in 1975 at 67 years of age, after only 3 feature films under his belt, Oliveira's career exploded and hardly ever slowed. But let's rewind, because we aren't here to cover his entire 31 title filmography. We're here to begin where Portuguese cinema truly began. In 1931, Manuel saw Walter Ruttmann's documentary, Berlin Symphony of a City. Ruttmann's film is the most famous of a small, short-lived silent documentary film genre called, quote-unquote, city symphony film. These films portrayed the life of a city, mainly through visual impressions in a semi-documentary style, without the narrative content of a more mainstream film, though the sequencing of events can imply a kind of loose theme or impression of the city's daily life. Oliveira said that Ruttmann's film was his, quote, most useful lesson in film technique, unquote, but that he also found it, quote, cold, mechanical, and lacking humanity, unquote. The Germans, what are you going to do? This led Oliveira to direct his first 21-minute short documentary, Douro Faina Fluvial, a portrait of his hometown of Porto. He was invited to show the film at the International Congress of Film Critics in Lisbon, where the majority of the Portuguese audience booed. This would prove an ongoing reaction to Manuel's early films from his own people. Just in case you ever thought you should quit just because you get consistently booed by the audience that means the most to you. Nevertheless, critics praised the film for all the good it did. Oliveira struggled to make another film for over 10 years. His family were wealthy industrialists and agricultural landowners. His father owned a dry goods factory, produced the first electric light bulbs in Portugal, and built an electric energy plant before he died in 1932. So at 17, Manuel joined his brothers as an executive in his father's factories, where he remained for the majority of his adult life when not making films. In a 1981 Sight and Sound article, John Gillett describes Oliveira as having, quote, spent most of his life in business, making films only when circumstances allowed, unquote. Just in case you thought not being able to make films for 10-year stretches at a time while when you worked menial jobs you hated meant you should quit or in itself constituted a crisis. It does, but tomorrow always comes. 15 years after his first attempt at filmmaking, Oliveira made his feature film debut in 1942. ANIKI-BOBO is a portrait of Porto's street children and based on a short story by Rodrigo de Freitas. Non-professional actors were cast to portray the children, and Oliveira hoped to capture the energy and ambiance that he loved about his city of Porto. The film was largely ignored upon release, and its poor reception forced Oliveira to abandon other film projects he was involved in at the time, after which he dedicated himself to work in a vineyard that his wife had inherited. In case you thought it was ever safe to quit your day job when you're living through an authoritarian regime. Americans, I'm speaking to you. But time has been kind to ANIKI-BOBO, which today is considered, quote, a landmark precursor to Italian neorealism. ANIKI-BOBO is a children's film shot with non-professionals and meager means in de Oliveira's native Porto under the shadow of both the Second World War and the stifling Salazar dictatorship. In incantatory nursery rhyme, its incantatory nursery rhyme title refers to a children's game in which authoritarianism is pitted against rebellion and freedom, the film's underlying theme. Unquote. That whole quote was Andrea Picard from the Toronto International Film Festival, celebrating ANIKI-BOBO's new restoration, now available to all. And ANIKI-BOBO is the 1942 debut feature of Manoel de Oliveira is what we're here to discuss today, folks. I just took my first trip to Portugal, and to celebrate, we had to watch our very first authentic Portuguese movie, not just a Portuguese language film, because a lot of Brazilian films, which we have much more easy access to here in America, that is all Portuguese language because they used to be an outpost of Portugal, but I meant a true blue Portuguese film, which I realized I'd never seen in my life. I'd never seen a single actual Portuguese film. So what better than the godfather of modern Portuguese cinema and his very first feature film, ANIKI-BOBO, which is also pretty close to being the first narrative Portuguese feature film of note in the country's history. So we will be right back to get started on this convo, but here's our intro. We shall return.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, sir! We'll have a real good time!
He's Dave, and I'm Dallas, and this is Vintertainment. We have opinions on just about everything. Sometimes those opinions are spot on. Sometimes they go down easier with a glass of wine. This is Vintertainment, the wine and entertainment pairing podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Vintertainment. This is, of course, the podcast where we pair wine with entertainment. It's as simple as that. Do you dig that idea? Do you think it's cool? Then make sure to follow us and subscribe to this pod. Leave us a rating and a review because all of those things make it easier for others to find out about us. You know, no one's looking for a wine and movie pairing podcast. Let's be honest with each other. But if you're listening to this, you probably have to admit it's pretty fucking cool, right? So everyone who wants to know about us should get to know about us. So please follow, rate, and review. We deeply appreciate it. You should especially follow us on Substack. Go to vintertainmentstudios.com, vintertainmentstudios.com, where we'll keep you all up to date on all our upcoming live in-person wine and movie events, online events, as well as bonus wine and entertainment pairings, collabs with other wine writers and film writers, filmmakers, and wine peeps. If you ask nicely, in fact, we'll even help you with your own wine and movie pairing. Just ask. We love doing this. We're super okay with doing it even more. But you have to come to our Substack. That's where we will help you out. And many thanks to our sponsor, Curated Wine Shop. No idea where to begin finding a wine that pairs with your movie? That's okay. Almost literally no one does, but Curated is here to help. They accept every Vintertainment-inspired challenge and will curate the selection to match your palate. Just tell them what you're trying to pair with, your budget, your preferences, and they will show you the way. Curated is a boutique wine shop on La Brea Avenue, Mid-City, Los Angeles, founded and operated by peeps currently and previously part of the entertainment ecosystem. Johnny, Kelly, Allison, and Mia, they're all fantastic. Go meet them. They carry an ever-ranging, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines. They carry an ever-changing, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines, from the known and comforting to the completely unique reds, whites, rosés, oranges, sparklings, dry wines, sweet wines. I just bought a vermouth from them that I love. It's my third bottle of that vermouth. I think I'm the only one buying it. Go buy some of that vermouth. It's amazing. It's the only vermouth they have. You'll know which one. And everything in between. Go check them out if you're in the LA area. Find them online as well at curated-wines.com. They do ship. Curated-wines.com for Curated and vintertainmentstudios.com for us Vintertainment Bros. And now, what's next, Mr. Dallas?
All right, let's keep going with this whole Portugal thing since Dave just got back from that fantastic country.
And boy, are my arms tired.
That's right. That's right. That's a reference to an article he posted recently. Go check it out on our Substack. So, our wine trivia question of the week. Now, initially, I thought I wanted to do something fairly difficult, but in order to stump Dave, because he is our premier wine guy in these parts. But I decided instead to go a bit more general for our audiences, so they could walk away with a nice, tight little bit of information that might serve them well as they move and venture out into the world of wine. Okay, Dave. Today's question is: which of the following grapes is not one of the core 5 grapes used in the making of port? Your options are A, Touriga Nacional, B, Tinta de Doros, C, Tinta Roriz, D, Tinta Barroca, E, Tinta Xiao. I think it's pronounced Xiao.
Is it Xiao? Oh, okay.
It's Xiao. I think it's Xiao. So again, it's Touriga Nacional, Tinta de Doros, Tinta Roriz, Tinta Barroca, Tinta Xiao.
Although I think I could be wrong about this. I'm still learning how to pronounce things in Portuguese, guys.
Although it may be cow. It may be cow.
It might be cow. I think it's cow.
I think it's cow.
They do I think they do the squiggly under the C.
The squiggly isn't printed here. That's right. Yeah, you're right. It's
yeah. And if it's a squiggly, I think it's just the S sound, not even the SH. I think the SH is solely for the S in Portuguese.
All right.
So the
and if anyone out there knows, correct us.
Yeah, Tinta Cow, Touriga Nacional, Tinta do Douros, because it's the Douro, right? Which is where all port is made, is the Douro, and it's Douro with the Z at the end. So Tinta do Douros, Tinta Roriz, which is their name for Tempranillo, by the way.
That's right.
One of their names for Tempranillo. They also call it Aragonese. Oh my God. Tinta Barroca and Tinta Cow. All right. I'm pretty sure. I hate that you went simple because now I'm going to get it wrong, and that's going to suck. If you'd gone complicated, I'd be like, oh, well, it's so complicated. I'm not an expert in Portuguese wine, but I just sell it, which you don't have to be an expert. You can just sell it. It's amazing.
That's right.
So I'm pretty sure, even though it's crazy that all port is made in the Douro, and this grape is called Douros, it's the one that I am not really that. I don't know if Dallas made it up or if I've just rarely seen it. But I know Touriga Nacional is the primary one. I know Tinta Roriz and Tinta Cow. I'm pretty sure Tinta Barroca is also in there. And Tinta do Douros, I'm going to go with that. So B, Tinta do Douros.
All right. He is correct. That is right. That is not one of the core 5. The one of the core 5 that is missing is the Touriga Franca or Francesa, which you guys may be familiar with. So Touriga Nacional, as Dave said, is considered the finest grape. It usually produces low yield, small, thick-skinned berries. Francesa, which we don't have on this list, is planted, of course, in the Douro. The Tinta Roriz, or also known as the Tempranillo, is another name for the Tempranillo, I should say, one of the many names for the Tempranillo. The Barroco is a high sugar grape that contributes the high alcohol, of course, and body with a jammy fruit to the blend. And Tinta Chow or Cow, correct us if you're out there, is a rare and semi-ancient, I added the semi, but robust varietal that thrives in poor soil.
And can I just say that one of my missions when I went to Portugal, of those 5 primary port grapes, I had never seen. You can find Touriga Nacional kind of on its own fairly commonly. A lot of wineries nowadays make a single varietal Touriga Nacional. There's even a lot of Touriga Nacional coming out of the States, like in California, they grow it. It does really well in warm and humid climates like Portugal. The thick skins keep it's resistant to mold, it's resistant to disease. So it can do well that way. So like, I think they grow some in Texas. They can grow some in, you can find Touriga Nacional in Washington, New Mexico. Like, it does well in these places. But Touriga Franca is the one that I'd never seen on its own. It was my mission. I'm like, I know they do it. Some people do it. But kind of like Cabernet Sauvignon versus Cabernet Franc. And this is Touriga Nacional versus Touriga Franc. as well, or yeah, a Touriga Franca. Similarly, like Cabernet Franc, which is a bit more green, a bit more bright and astringent than the sheer fruitiness and sugariness of Cabernet Sauvignon. Touriga Franca is hard to get ripe enough. It tends to not do well on its own, but a few places and a few winemakers can do it. And I found one bottle while in Portugal. I haven't opened it yet, but I finally found one, and I'll finally get to taste what that tastes like on its own. And that was the missing one from this list.
And as we said, to the one I completely pulled out of my ass while drinking wine was the Tinta Outtake. But any winey person worth his salt in wine, as Dave is, would understand that direct relation to the land, like Outtake, is a dead giveaway. So that is your wine question.
You never know. You never know.
People.
You never know. You never know. Some grapes out there, I'm going to blank on it right now, but some grapes out there are very connected to like where they originally grew.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All
right. In any event, on to our main discussion, Mr. Dallas. Let's start with, was this your first time watching ANIKI-BOBO? I'm the one who chose this movie and threw it at you. It was my first time watching it as well. I'm going to assume yes, but feel free to surprise me.
First time watching it, not first time discussing it. I discussed it. Remember, you and I have spoken a few times about propaganda films, or films that feel like propaganda, or films that were used as propaganda. And a friend of mine, I think I referred to him a few weeks ago, Steve, and I discussed this sort of propaganda film. And I had never honestly heard of it prior to that. And the posters are great, by the way. Just go check out the posters of this old film.
Oh yeah.
And he was remarking that it felt like, and the same thing I came away with, was that it felt like they took these adult themes and situations and relationships and just placed them behind the masks of children. And upon viewing this, it was like, okay, yeah, that's clear. That is definitely what they did. So first time watching it, loved it, thought it was fun. Clocks in at about an hour and 7 minutes, which is, nice and rough and ready and dirty and to the point, the way I kind of like it sometimes. There's some
I think it's an hour 17. I think it's 77. 70 something. Yeah.
Yeah, an hour 7. Yeah, something like that.
Nice and short. Nice and sweet.
Yeah, nice and short, nice and sweet. So first time watching it, as I said, not the first time hearing about it. So how about you?
Yeah, first time. Now, I watched it a couple weeks before you. It was part of my Letterboxd Film Club, the collab. It was my turn to pick a theme right before I went to Portugal. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's, my Letterboxd Club there, the collab, by the way, anyone can join. I'll have a link down below if you want to find us on Letterboxd, and just sound off in the comment thread on the Letterboxd group. And we do one movie a week, and there's a themed poll every week. We rotate the group who gets to pick the theme, and then we do a ranked choice voting on which one gets chosen to actually be viewed. And that week I was like, an authentic Portuguese film, which the collab had never done either in its history, a many-year history. So I was like, oh, well, it's time. Let's do it. And I actually threw Manoel de Oliveira's this ANIKI-BOBO, his first film ever. And I also threw on his final film in 2012 at the age of 104. And that was his final feature. He was still making shorter films and documentaries in his last 2 years of life, but his final feature film was from 2012. And so I was like, let's bookend his life. Pick which bookend you want from that. And it made sense. Most people wanted to start at the beginning, see where it all began. And so that's what we went with. There were a couple other Portuguese films in there. I picked 5 altogether, and we picked this one. We watched it. Then I went to Portugal, then I came back, and then I threw this at you, and I was like, let's do this on the podcast too. I think that let's honor my Portuguese trip. And this is just an interesting slice of film history. People don't talk about Portuguese film that often. It is, I think this has been remastered. This has been re-released on Blu-ray. So it's getting some love. Portuguese film is not completely forgotten or anything of that nature, but it is less talked about than most European countries out there. So I thought, let's give it some love, and let's talk about a little corner of film history that because of that authoritarian Salazar regime during the time, it has been, there wasn't much going on worth of note during those decades,
Right.
until the 70s. But this is one of them. Manoel de Oliveira's beginning of his career, these early years, this is important and this is critical. And the fact that it even predates Italian neorealism, and you can see so much of that movement in this film before that even became a thing, that's pretty cool. So yeah, we're going to talk about this film. That was my first time watching it as well. So we are going to begin as usual, guys. We're going to cover this film in 3 acts. We're going to do a synopsis of each of the acts. There aren't too many spoilers in a movie like this, but just so you know, we will be spoiling everything in the movie in terms of the synopsis. It really doesn't take anything away from watching a movie like this, so don't worry about it. But at the same time, we're going to cover each act, break in between each act, and talk about our thoughts on the movie and what we were thinking in terms of a pairing with the movie after each act. And then we will reveal our pairings at the very end. All right, so on that note, here we go, Act 1. The film opens with a group of grade school-aged boys who play along the banks of the Douro River in the city of Porto in northern Portugal. They're a rambunctious group and often run afoul of the law and the local shopkeeper of Loja das Tentacoes, or the Shop of Temptations. 2 of the boys, Carlitos and Eduardinho, both battle for the affections of seemingly the sole girl child in the whole area.
The entire
Teresina.
village.
In the whole village. I'm like, wow, okay, there's one. Got it. No wonder they fight over her. Eduardinho is the obviously sporty, pretty boy womanizer, while Carlitos is the more sensitive, focused of the 2. Teresina seems pleased to have the 2 suitors, and her preference between them is not obvious. We then head to school, where a male teacher drones monotone lessons at the children. And when one of them enters the classroom late, the boy is forced to wear a dunce cap and sit in the corner. The teacher then proceeds to pick on each of the children in turn, setting them up for failure, only to disparage them, caring more for quote-unquote order and obedience than anything resembling education. This will be a theme throughout this movie. After school, the children listen to a street singer, then gather to swim in the Douro River. Teresina arrives and is charmed by Carlitos, but then manhandled away by Eduardinho. The 2 boys push their rivalry to fisticuffs, well, slap-a-cuffs, until the local constable chases them all away. Later, Carlitos runs into Teresina, gazing longingly at a doll in the window of a local shop. She notices Carlitos is hurt from his fight and tenderly rubs his bruised eye. That's the end of Act 1. So thoughts on Act 1. Dallas, kick us off. What were your thoughts on this rough Act 1 of this movie in particular?
First of all, the setting, it's clearly, seaside. It is, a fishing sort of village. The streets are beautiful. Everything about this place is so sort of inviting and small town. And, curiously enough, most of the adults are painted as almost petulant children. They're painted sort of as petulant children, which clearly was intentional on his part. But the adults all seem like kids who just don't know how to control their emotions, and they're just raw sort of expressions of feeling, and while the children are so metered and thoughtful and intentioned. So for me, Act 1 was very sort of grounded. Oddly enough, the kids all feel so grounded and so sort of mature, and so it was a curious thing to kind of see. They paint, as I said, they painted all these adults as kind of these almost caricatures of petulant children. So stylistically, that was fantastic to see. Clearly, this director had some thoughts, and he has a thesis, and he is clearly making a statement here. From Act 1, I was ready for the ride. Again, so for me, walking away from Act 1, I'm thinking, okay, something grounded. And for me, those flavors, I start to, of course, think about, I'm not sure why, but cherry. I start to think cherry is a core flavor for me. Cherry is a core flavor for me. If you were to ask me on any given day, what fruit sort of profile I would want, or my craving, or I would not have any objection to, I'm going with cherry. Just in general, I'm going cherry.
And that's your ground. Ground made of cherries. When they
Yeah.
roll out the red carpet for Dallas, it is a carpet made of cherries.
100%. And I think it's because, depending on the cherry, the flavors can be so complex and so deep and so rich that it.
There's a range too. We don't talk about the types
Absolutely.
of cherries. But you have your
Absolutely.
tart red cherry, you have your black
Absolutely.
cherry, sour cherry. You have
Absolutely.
a Rainer cherry. You have
Rainer
the yellow
cherries,
cherry.
you
You
get-
have so many. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, that's a core flavor. So I automatically started thinking, oh, maybe I'm going fruit this round. Maybe I'm going
Okay.
sort of non-traditional, kind of just fruit wine. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's happening. But but I was thinking either that or something in, of course, the fortified area. So yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
Okay. Yeah, so this movie, I agree with you about the adults versus kids thing. One, this is supposed to be the director's love letter to Porto. And you can see that, one, in just how
Absolutely.
lovingly he captures all the streets, especially the waterways, the harbors. And there's a lot of energy to this first act of the movie.
Much.
Like just
so
much. The kids running around when they go to play by the river too. I mean, by modern standards, this would be child endangerment, but this is probably what the kids actually
100%.
did when they played. So he just let them do it and captured it on camera. But one of the kids, I think it was Eduardinho, he climbs this like giant construction crane and climbs the neck, goes to the top of it and just dives
jumps
off into the river. I'm like, motherfucker, I would never do that. Like, not.
Here's what's crazy about that.
Yeah.
It's not even deep in the river. It's right off the fucking shore, which means
Right.
the base of the actual river is not that deep.
Right.
So,
but the kid just does it and he's fine. We see it all in one long take and we're like, okay. Like, it's not that thing where he jumps off the crane and then it cuts to someone splashing in the water. No, he's watching these kids do what they do. And there's a lot of that. There's climbing on rooftops later, running on rooftops later, and like slipping on the little, because they have the old school type of adobe huts and whatnot.
Right.
A lot, when I went to Portugal, the housing there there's so much rock in Portugal that most of the buildings are stone. Like pure, not clay, like stone, like fucking cement type style, concrete style stone, which keeps them very cool in the really, really warm summers and whatnot. So they have like stone homes with these tile roofs. And of course the tiles can crack and break and slip and slide. And you see these kids running on the rooftops and slipping and sliding all over these little, I mean, there's so much where you're watching it and you're like, oh dear, like this is not, these are not stunt people doing this.
This was life. This is metal. Life was metal.
Right.
Life was metal.
Right. So he's just capturing life. And these are all non-professional actors. So you can tell he's just like, do your thing. And like, there's a script and whatnot. And we're going to tell the story, but you do your in between. When I ask you to play, when I ask you to fight, how would you fight? Let's slap each other. Go ahead. Pretend. Right. Do what you're going to do. And they do. And they roll around on the ground. And then the adults, yes, like even the cops, like this was during the early days of the Salazar regime. And you can tell that the adults they're very, they're in control of their respective domains to where like everything annoys them. Every small thing out of place is just something to be upset about and to complain about and bitch and whine, gripe and moan about. There's no happiness seemingly no happiness in their lives like the kids. The kids are always worried about getting in trouble. The kids are always like, when the cop is around, like they are very wary, even though none of them are ever really threatened with being arrested or anything like that. But they're very wary. But that's the thing. They're very careful. They're like clocking the situation all the time, trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what they can get away with, what they can't, where those lines are. They're testing those boundaries, but they're very cognizant of boundaries. And the adults are like, they kind of do nothing and just complain about everything. And that is their existence. And in ways that are just like obnoxious and just kind of mean most of the time. We're like, there's no call for this. Nothing should be annoying you this much. So he's plainly making that stark divide with the adults where they're like, you're so complacent with the way things are that you're finding things to bitch about and gripe about and like making life, rather than finding the joy in life, all you're doing is being miserable and making life miserable for characters like the kids who want to have fun. And one thing to note about this movie is when it came out, audiences they were very critical, like local audiences were very critical of it.
It's very true.
And one of the major criticisms was that these kids were having like love triangles and you know,
The themes
dealing
were
with
too
moral.
amoral, yeah, for
Right,
audiences.
too amoral because they were dealing with moral quandaries and
Yeah.
and deciding, well, what should I do? This is what I want to do, but here's where the gray lines are. But they were struggling with the moral quandaries, with the ethical quandaries, whereas the adults had like they just did what they did, and like
Right.
they would slap someone and just be like, yeah, well, I can't. Oh, the shopkeeper. One of my favorite
Oh, the
moments is when he slaps his
shopkeeper with the
assistant.
poor kid. The poor kid. The
I know.
poor
He
assistant.
slaps this customer annoys him, and then the customer leaves, and he turns around and slaps his assistant. And the assistant's like, "What was that for?" And he's like, "Well, I can't slap the customer." and so I have to take it out on, but it's like I have to take it out on someone.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the
scene
key
is
point. That's the key point for how he drew these characters. It's like they are all just pure emotional expression without any sort of, you know, motivation behind it.
Right, but the local, according historically at least, the documentation says that the locals mostly complained about how the kids were portrayed, which is kind of interesting because that's the thing. They were like, they're too free, they're too amoral, they're too like
they're thinking too much.
They're not exactly thinking too much and loving life too much. And the adults who he was portraying them in a certain way, I think those might have been kind of the way the adults were at the time. But that was approved of. They didn't even see that as a criticism. They just saw that as like, well, yeah, that's how it should be, kind of a thing. So that was interesting. So for me, right away, I was like the energy of these kids and just the freedom that they had. And yes, there was a lot of adult situations he was throwing at them and that they were dealing with. So I'm like, okay, something complex, because this is not like a simple thing, but something with energy, something with verbs, something that just contained that first and foremost, and then maybe complexity on top of that. I had to figure out how those two things were going to go together, but that's what I was thinking for the end of Act 1.
Okay. I like it. All right. Act 2, people. The next day, swooning with love for Teresina. I love that. I love that Portuguese thing when they add the NH and sometimes the NGH and sometimes the SZ or add. That's just native to the language, but I love the way it looks on paper. Anyway, the next day, swooning with love for Teresina, Carlitos breaks open his literal piggy bank and brings the change to the shop. Unfortunately, it isn't anywhere near enough for the doll. We see the shopkeeper constantly take his frustrations out on his one poor, long-suffering hired hand, and the adults here are more often incendiary and childish than the children. An adult customer then enters the shop and distracts the shopkeeper so that Carlitos can shoplift the doll. Meanwhile, Eduardinho is confronted by Teresina for beating Carlitos. He proudly declares himself more manly while she implores him not to hurt Carlitos anymore. Later that night, the kids all gather on the street to play cops and robbers and use ANIKI-BOBO, which is a version of Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, to select who will be who. Eduardinho takes charge of the counting, of course, and Carlitos is the last to be selected as a robber, which he is absolutely offended by, to which his guilty conscience balks. As the kids rush through the streets, Carlitos becomes scared of his own shadow, then that of the local constable. By the way, the constable in this is just a version of, and I can't think of the character's name right now. It's going to come back to me. Remind me to come back to that. It is so perfectly drawn. Anyway, the local constable still patrolling the streets. He runs away and climbs the rooftops to Teresina's window, where, of course, he gives her the stolen doll. All right, Act 2, Dave. What do you think?
Act 2. So this is where I think that complexity really starts to shine through. Honestly, it gets even worse or more so. It gets deeper in Act 3. We'll get there in just a moment. But in this one, with the stealing of the doll and then the guilty conscience, and then, but he's doing it, like he even stole it for someone else. And like he tried to give him the money, but he didn't have enough money. There's no way to get enough money. So it was that thing of like, if I'm ever going to do this, if I'm ever going to beat Eduardinho with his manliness in this game, it's going to take something like having this doll. Like you totally see the thought process going on here. And like, yes, theft is something that like, we just last week we did the Alabama Solution and The Perfect Neighbor are all about like our criminal justice system here and whatnot. And one of the things we talk about a lot there is, crime. We're always so quote unquote tough on crime, and even in the States, one of the worst things is it's almost never murder, right? It's almost never something truly heinous. It's always fucking shoplifting and robbery and petty theft. Like, these are the things, burglaries and breaking into people's cars. And like, is that bad and obnoxious? And like, yes, all of those things. It is. And no, we should incentivize people not to do it. But often we decide the incentive has to be something kind of outlandish. Like, the punishment no longer really fits the crime anymore. And petty theft of a doll from a shop, we're going to get to Act 3 here in a moment, but eventually the shopkeeper isn't even in Act 2, he's not that put out by it. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I wonder who it could be. He doesn't like it, and he wants to solve the crime. Yeah. But he's not fretting anything.
It seems like his only real interest is just solving the mystery.
Right. It's like he's having fun, right, with it a little bit. And he's just sort of like, I wonder who it was. And I want to find it because, order and all that fun stuff. But it's like, but he's not like, oh my God, my business, like I'm in such dire straits and now this doll has been stolen and I'm going to go under if I don't get this doll back, kind of a thing. Or like someone wanted to buy it and now they couldn't. And if I don't get this doll back, I won't make that money, and that money's critical for something. Nothing like that. It's just, oh, the doll's not here anymore. I wonder where it went. So I think there's, for Act 2, really nothing changed in my thinking. One thing that this movie is very good at is like it sets the tone right at the beginning and it sticks to it. It doesn't really shift too much. It gets a little darker, a little deeper. We'll get to Act 3 here in just a moment with one final thing that happens that I thought was absolutely brilliant. But right here, I'm like, okay, it's just deepening everything I already thought it was doing. So I'm still on complex, but with a lot of childish energy. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think things get a bit, for lack of a better term, muddy here. I do think the shopkeeper being this turning into this sort of gumshoe almost, this sort of detective, when 5 minutes earlier he was throwing a cat at something at his poor shopkeeper. He was really obsessed with what was going on in the shop, but this
the throwing of the cat, that was the one thing I was like, hey
yeah, that was that was a master stroke. I was like, wow, good luck getting away with that today. But yeah, I think Act 2 for sure. So yeah, I love the relationships between this core love triangle. It did get a little uncomfortable after a while because they're definitely drawn as sort of adults, and there is something about this sort of deep, contemplative, romantic kind of love triangle thing that set a little uncomfortable for me. And even that started making me think again of cherries. There are certain varietals of cherries that really give you sort of acute notes, like sour notes. Like there's the sour cherries. There's some that are really bitter, and you get these odd sort of combinations. So I'm definitely in the cherry range. I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. Maybe a red, which has some really acute cherry notes, or maybe a fruit wine, fortified. I don't know, but I keep coming back to this idea of the cherry being the sort of core here.
Okay.
And yeah, that's me. Yeah. What about,
yeah. I think for me, I kind of failed to mention that I was just about to have a coughing fit. Something tickled in my throat, so I quickly stopped talking and turned my mic off and turned it over to you. But I did want to say sweet. I was still starting to think. So you say fortified. I don't know. I didn't know if it had to be fortified, but like the energy, the child, something complex, but then also something where, again, with that childlike energy, that verb, I'm like, okay, the complexity for the adult parts, but then something sweet for that childlike energy. I thought it's got to be sweet at this point. I'm pretty sure.
I like it.
All right. Act 3. The next morning, Eduardinho is sent by the teacher to buy red wrapping paper from the shop. The boy is such a jerk to the shopkeeper, he's immediately the prime suspect for having stolen the doll. Don't forget, it wasn't Eduardinho, it was actually Carlitos. So the shopkeeper follows the kids as they race off to play on the hilltops. He watches from a distance as once again Carlitos and Eduardinho get into a fight, and Carlitos is once again beaten soundly. Then a train arrives, roaring by down below, and the kids pause to race over and to the hill's edge to cheer it on. Carlitos gets up, and he was left behind on the ground because he had just gotten soundly beaten by Eduardinho. But Carlitos gets up, and he charges Eduardinho from behind, who now has his back to his rival. But before Carlitos can quite get there, Eduardinho slips and falls down the hillside by accident, all on his own accord. Carlitos skids to a halt, never having touched Eduardinho, but the other children all see that it was likely him who pushed Eduardinho off the cliff. Carlitos becomes a pariah with the gang, even to Teresina, who can't quite believe it, but has to believe her own eyes. As Eduardinho recovers in the hospital, the shopkeeper visits Teresina and reveals the truth, that Carlitos never touched Eduardinho. He discovers that it was Carlitos that stole the doll to give to Teresina, but nevertheless decides that while the boy isn't perfect, he's not what the other children think he is. Overjoyed, Teresina and the shopkeeper set off to find Carlitos. Meanwhile, Carlitos stows away on a boat in hopes of being able to leave Douro as a castaway.
So dramatic. So melodramatic.
I know. Running away from home. I'm running away from home, from my country. Fuck it. Sailors find him and aggressively threaten to either call the police or throw him off. This continues that whole thing of adults just kind of being assholes, like whenever they can be. Again, showcasing how often those adults in the world are less adult than the children are. As Carlitos staggers off the boat, he's suddenly surrounded by his friends, who dance and cheer and reveal that they all know Carlitos is innocent of harming Eduardinho. In the aftermath, Carlitos returns the doll to the shopkeeper, who then gives it back so long as Carlitos gives it to Teresina again. The kids celebrate this as well by shoplifting all the sweets from the countertop of the shopkeeper, and life in Porto goes on.
Goes on.
All right. Final thoughts and wine reveals. So I'll kick us off on this one, Dallas.
Yeah, go for it.
So for me, I loved talking about the complexity of these kids dealing with adult dilemmas, and the idea that when Carlitos didn't push Eduardinho off, and everyone thought he did, but I kind of loved the fact that he kind of might have pushed him off if another couple seconds had gone by. And I don't think it would have been his intention to have like pushed him off the cliff, but I think he just would have been a kid, not thinking about the consequence, not thinking about like what was actually happening. He would have just pushed him to push him.
Yeah.
And then, yes, Eduardinho would have fallen off a cliff and gotten just the same kind of damage. And so I love that he's innocent, but also kind of not. At the same time, like, what if it had gone differently and he was guilty? Do you take guilt for something that kind of doesn't happen just by the dint of fate, but you had every intention in the heat of the moment of having done that? It's like you were going to punch someone square in the face and they slipped and fell and you didn't connect with them. Are you guilty of having punched them?
Right. And
that's a really fascinating dilemma. And the movie doesn't really go there. They're just like, you're innocent. It's okay. By dint of fate, you're innocent. And I'm like, all right. But then he did have to also kind of suffer as though he had done it, which is kind of a good lesson learned in terms of if you had done it, this is what would have happened. You would have become a pariah, and you would have been miserable. So next time, don't do that, kind of a thing. So he gets to learn the lesson without having to suffer actually having done it. So I loved that about this movie. So in the end, in the ultimate end, this movie is just sweet, right? It's celebrating childhood. It's celebrating these kids, life in Porto. So when I went to Porto, one of my primary discoveries, and Dallas got to taste this with me last night. He came over and I had him taste it. And I was like, yeah, just in case you want to pair it with ANIKI-BOBO as well. My pairing had to be the Portuguese liqueur. Liqueur BEIRAO. That's BEIRAW with a little squiggly over the A. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced BEIRAO. The EI in Portuguese is always an A sound, so Liqueur BEIRAO. Simply known as BEIRAO. You don't have to put the liqueur in front of it. It's a Portuguese liqueur from the Beira region of Portugal, originating in the 19th century. It is the most consumed alcoholic spirit in Portugal. Production began in 19th century in Lausa, in the Beira region, from where it got its name, BEIRAO, meaning quote unquote from BEIRAO, literally, that's all BEIRAO means. It is made from a double distillation of seeds and herbs, including mint, cinnamon, cardamom, and lavender, from all over the world, including former Portuguese colonies of Brazil, Sri Lanka, and India. Much like other aromatic liqueurs, quote unquote aromatic, steeped in roots, seeds, herbs, and spices, such as vermouth, is another great example of that. BEIRAO was originally produced in the 19th century as a medicinal product for stomach aches. But after the late 19th century, alcoholic beverages were no longer qualified as medicinal, but the liqueur was kept in production in a small factory owned by the son-in-law of the original producer. In 1929, the liqueur entered the contest of the Second BEIRAO Congress, where it earned a gold medal and its name of BEIRAO. The liqueur is still produced and bottled in Quinta de Meirão, according to the original secret recipe, a double distillation of 13 different aromatic seeds, herbs, and spices. I listed the ones we know of. There are others, and it is a secret recipe. They do not divulge it. After being weighed out and mixed, the plants and herbs are mixed with alcohol and remain in maceration for a minimum of about 20 to 25 days. The resulting contents are then twice distilled in copper alembics. The use of natural plants and herbs is one of the liqueur's main distinctive factors, since it doesn't make use of essence or artificial aromas. Rather, the aroma used is produced locally, an alcohol ATE. That was kind of a new word for me, but I'm assuming it's the
Alcoholate,
the alcohol,
Processed.
when steeped in these things, it becomes an alcoholate made from the base ingredients. Once the alcoholate is ready, I think it's like vanilla extract kind of thing, right? Where you steep it in alcohol and then it becomes the extract. So once the alcoholate is ready, it is then added into the mixture of alcohol, sugar, and water. This mixture is then tested to ensure it fits the secret recipe's parameters. So a punchline used in the advertising in the 1960s, O BEIRAO que todos gostam, the one from Beira, which everybody likes, that was a subtle reference to their authoritarian ruler, Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, who was the one from Beira, which not everybody likes. So the liqueur was the one that everybody likes. And man, this liqueur, guys, it's sweet. It is sugary sweet. You drink it over like one ice cube and a twist of lemon. That's the perfect way to do it. The lemon gives it that little bit of acidity to counteract some of the sweetness, but you don't even need that. We did it without the lemon peel last night, and even Dallas was like, "Oh, this is a problem."
It's a problem.
It is sweet. It's root beer like. It's sarsaparilla like in its many flavors. It's roots and barks and seeds and extracts, and it's so drinkable. It's so stupidly drinkable. It's complex. There's a lot going on in the glass, but it's sweet, full of verve, full of energy. You could just drink this whole bottle. It is a problem in LA. Well, almost. We thought there was a place in LA that has it. It is in the States. You can order it online from Remedy Liqueurs, and they will ship. And they're selling this for $19 a bottle, and beyond worth it. But that's not the only liqueur from Portugal that is beyond worth it. Dallas, I think you might have another one. What do you got going for Act 3? And what's your pairing?
Guys. So as you guys know, I enjoy a lovely fortified wine. I enjoy a good sweet wine. I just enjoy any version or varietal of wine on principle, even if it's disgusting. I enjoy being disgusted at from time to time. But this film is so curiously sweet. It is also very tart. Some of the relationships and characters are just very astringent and almost unpleasant unless they're followed up by paired with someone or something that is sweet or some version of kind or nice. And so it's that intersection of the sweet and the tart and the sour that I really enjoy about this film, because clearly the writer director has some things to say. He was very unhappy about certain adult sort of figures in his life, and there's this sort of sweetness that he's ascribing to the core of these children, um, and putting the these sort of adult characteristics behind these adolescent masks, spurred on by Dave's sweet wine, as we'll call it, last night, because it is wonderfully sweet. I decided to go and find the other version, or another version, another varietal, another presentation of a Portuguese spirit. This is a sour cherry liqueur. It is called the Mariquinhas, or Mariquinhas, I should say. It is unbelievable. It's like drinking cherry liqueur. I mean, it is. It's cherry liqueur. I want to have this over ice cream. I don't. I want it to have it over a slice of pie. I want to have it over everything. It's just fantastic. This is a product that is from a family that's been doing this for about 70 years. It is, as I said, the Mariquinhas sour cherry liqueur. It is made with a very distinct family tradition. It is a 100% natural liqueur with no coloring and no preservatives. It is a ruby color, is acidic. It is all the things, and the sour cherry flavor is very intense. It's made with only 4 ingredients, people, just the 4. And you will find some particles and particulate in the actual bottle, including stems and pits. That's right. You will find, oh my God, I'm sweating. It's so hot in here.
Yeah. It's we're going through a heat wave on the West Coast right now, guys.
My God. It is produced exclusively from fruit from their 22,000 cherry trees. That's got to be a great life. As a person who enjoys a cherry, that's got to be a great life.
And this is, by the way, guys, I'm pretty sure this is the Ginja.
This is the Ginja.
It is native sour cherry to Portugal.
That's right. It is. The Mariquinhas brand from Ginja is from this family, is inspired by what's called the fado, which is essentially a type of traditional or soulful Portuguese music genre, which is generally characterized by melodic and melancholic melodies and lyrics. And it's all about love, loss, and longing, which sort of originated in the working class neighborhoods of Lisboa or Lisbon in the 1800s. And this wine, this cordial, this lovely fucking drink is just so delicious. I can't, honestly, I'm not going to do it any justice in describing it. I really am not. It is just unbelievable. And that is probably all I have. I cannot, I'm honestly failing on the words to describe this, because I've already gone through, by the way, guys, I've already gone through a third of the bottle, and I've had it for
a couple hours.
A couple hours here. So it's fantastic, guys. It's Licor de Ginja, Mariquinhas. It is a sour tart cherry liqueur that just goes well with everything. And I probably should have eaten something, because I think I'm a little intoxicated during
Well, we're almost done. We're almost done. You're about to be able to go eat something. But that sour cherry liqueur, the BEIRAO, and there's an almond liqueur. It's a lot like amaretto, but honestly, a little bit better, that they also have from Portugal. And that amaretto, actually, I have the name of it right here. Let me see if I can find it again. The Amarguinhas.
Amarguinhas, yeah.
Amarguinhas. And that is, by the way, the ya in Portuguese, guys. It's always an H, so it's spelled Amarguinha, Am-are-gween-yas, or ha. And that is their almond liqueur. And if you go to Remedy Liquor, I'm going to give them credit, because not many places carry these things in America. But if you're in America and the 48 states, and you want to order from Remedy Liquor and have them shipped to you, BEIRAO, Amarguinhas, Amarguinhas, and the Ginja. What was the name? It's the Ginja. It's the only one they have of Mariquinhas. But if you do Ginja, they'll know it's the only one that comes out. But
they had one bottle left. God bless them.
Yeah, the cherry liqueur is $25. The BEIRAO is $19, and the almond liqueur is $15. None of these are breaking your bank, so get a bottle of each, have them shipped to you. They are so tremendously good, but so drinkable. So be careful. They are dangerous.
Please be careful. This one is only 18% ABV, but again, so dangerous because you don't actually feel like
pour a little over ice and put it the frick back in the fridge and walk away. Do not carry it to your desk like Dallas did
just
here
do what I do
of this episode. This is he's officially advertising for these liqueurs. All right, guys. And once again, this has been Manoel de Oliveira's debut feature film from 1942, ANIKI-BOBO. You can find this online fairly. It has been remastered. It's floating around out there. See, depending on where you're listening to this from, which country you're in, check it out. See if you can find a copy. But it is well worth seeking out. And then the man kept making movies. He only made 3 before he was 67, but he's made 31 since then. So and he kept making films till he was 106 years old.
There was about a 2-decade little recess in his filmmaking career, which, as Dave said, it's a testament to just starting wherever the hell you are, no matter the age.
And he just went to work in a vineyard and his parents' businesses, did what he had to do, and then when the authoritarian regime finally was toppled, he was like, time to pick up the camera again. And boy, howdy, did he ever. And he never stopped. And he kept going until he literally he had to drop dead to stop at that point. So yeah, Manoel de Oliveira, go check them out. ANIKI-BOBO, 1942, go check them out. All these Portuguese liqueurs, BEIRAO, Am-are-gween-yas, and Ginja, tart cherry liqueur, and yes, Dallas.
And if you have any corrections about our pronunciations today, please, by all means, come to our Substack, go to our socials, let us know. But do it kindly and very nicely because we do fight.
We do fight, or just shout them into the void. It's all good. It's all good. No, to be fair, the more you correct us, especially for me, because I do work with Portuguese wine for a living right now, the more you correct my pronunciation, the better I'll learn from that. So the more I can learn, the better. So let us know if we got anything wrong.
The more you correct mine, the more I ignore it. So enjoy.
There you go. There you go. And be on the lookout. By the way, guys, Portuguese wine, it's amazing. We're going to do more episodes on Portuguese wine as we go, and Portuguese movies. I think this will be our first. I am swimming in both right now, so expect to see more of that in the future. And until then, hey, we will be back in 1 week with another wine and entertainment pairing for your bintertainment. But until then, ciao for now. We'll catch you next week.
Later, guys.
La 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 la.
Sounded like the beginning of an 80s pop song. Welcome everybody.
Buddy to la 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 la. It's like that's what we recorded into the demo and it just stuck.
That's right.
We didn't have lyrics yet, but then everyone was like, no, that's what the song should be.
Exactly.
I think that was there's so many songs. I think even I Can Feel It Coming in the Air Tonight, like a number of the lyrics were just something he sang like at random into the demo, and it's like they're not supposed to actually make that much sense because they are a little nonsensical. And then he's like, they just became the song, and then everyone's trying to like interpret that song as to like what it actually means, and he's like, yeah, good luck with that.